I'm just going to be honest here. I'm not on national security. I'm not that informed on national security, so I'm not a polished politician up here. National security is not my thing.
And just like that, she made it much, much worse. Hey guys, welcome back to the show, your home for independent and nonpartisan commentary and analysis on politics, media, internet insanity, and more. There's a big political story unfolding right now on the Republican side that we're going to talk about, and it concerns Darline Graham, who is currently a United States Senator from South Carolina. And now, if her name sounds familiar, that's because she was appointed to complete the term of the late Senator Lindsey Graham, who died a little while ago. And she was kind of, in a somewhat symbolic gesture, appointed to fill the rest of his term, and so that then they could have an election for another candidate. Now, she kind of shocked everybody because she was really just supposed to be a placeholder by actually throwing her hat in the ring, and she's now running for his seat in a proper election. Now, the interesting twist there is that President Trump has thrown his support behind her, but she does have a challenger who is a longtime congressman as well from South Carolina. Anyway, there's a big controversy playing out right now because she kind of crashed and burned at a debate this week and just keeps making it worse. So here's the headline from Mediaite. Darline Graham defends disastrous debate performance to Sean Hannity. Quote, "I don't speak. Politician." South Carolina Senator Darline Graham defended her headline-making debate performance in which she blurted out, quote, "I'm not that informed on national security," by insisting she was just being honest. Graham, 62, was appointed to finish out her brother Lindsey Graham's term after the elder's sudden July 11 death at 71, and is running for a shot at the full term this fall after being endorsed by President Donald Trump. While Lindsey Graham was a well-known foreign policy hawk who spent decades in Congress, his sister tried to backpedal during a Wednesday appearance on Fox News' Hannity, telling anchor Sean Hannity she's not a politician. Now, I'm going to show you guys this debate clip from the actual event that happened this week because it is breathtaking and actually diabolical. It's one of the worst debate performances I have ever seen from a political candidate in my life. And that's saying something, because these days our political class is not exactly the best and brightest. Anyway, let's watch.
National security question as well. Senator, are Taiwan and the South China Sea national security issues for the United States? If so, why?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Are Taiwan and the South China Sea national security issues for the United States? And if so, why?
Sorry, I'll just pause this to say, why did you need her to repeat the question? In the grand scheme of things, that's not as big a deal, and it's certainly not as bad as what follows. But it's actually an extremely clear and straightforward question. Are Taiwan and the South China Sea an important national security issue? And if so, why? What part? You're a United States senator. You are campaigning to become one for a full term. That's really not a trick question. It's actually an incredibly straightforward question that anybody familiar with geopolitics, whatever their view on it is, should be able to answer with ease. But Darline Graham was not, in fact, able to answer it with ease. Let's keep going here.
I'm just going to be honest here. I'm not on national security. I'm not that informed on national security, so...
Oh?
But I do support the military. My brother was in the Air Force for 33 years. So I will do everything I can to support the military. My dad was in the Army. I'm not a polished politician up here. National security is not my thing, not my area of expertise, but I do support the military.
Congressman, I'll give you a chance to respond, and I'm sure he recognizes that...
Taiwan's a definite ally. And, we have a trading relationship with them that is beneficial to the United States, chips being one of them, and others. So what the president is doing right is he's enabling Taiwan to defend themselves against China. But it's peace through strength that he's showing with Iran that China, Russia, others are looking at it so that they don't want to deal with America, and that's why they haven't attacked Taiwan. If they had some weak Democrat in office like Biden or another Obama, yeah, they'd take it over. But we can't let that happen. We got to take a peace through strength is working.
So there you have the other candidate, Ralph Norman, who, listen, he's a longtime congressman. Maybe you agree or disagree with his answer, but he at least seems to know what Taiwan is. Whereas Darline Graham doesn't seem to know that at all. And when you're running for Senate, who, by the way, guys, votes and decides policy on matters of war and national defense and geopolitics, saying that I'm not informed on national security and it's not my thing, about when you're asked about an extremely pressing issue in geopolitics, I mean, that should be a disqualifying answer. That's absolutely insane. And then she goes, but I support our military. Great. I mean, imagine if you were asked, okay, you're running for office and everyone's concerned about affordability. What are you going to do to lower prices? And you go, well, I'm not that informed about economics, but I support families having more money. Congrats. Do you want a cookie? What are we doing here? How is this a thing? I wasn't a huge fan of the idea of her being appointed to complete his term because she's not qualified to be a United States senator. However, there is something of a historical precedent. There have been past instances where the widow of a politician who passes away is appointed to finish his term or complete it in his seat. And often, there are advisors that can tell them, what your husband would have voted on or what have you. And, they might have some qualifications or experience in their own kind. But it's one thing when it's a pretty short-term symbolic gesture. But for her to actually be a candidate now, despite being both totally unqualified, having no experience in government or public office, and no outside deep knowledge of these issues, in fact, lacking a rudimentary knowledge of these issues, I mean, I find it insulting. I find it to be the emotional Republican equivalent of a DEI hire, right? They are pushing her forward simply because of a legacy tie, because she's Lindsey Graham's sister. But congratulations, that's not a accomplishment. That's not a qualification. That doesn't mean you're able to do the job of a United States senator. And clearly, you just admitted on camera you don't know anything about some of the key areas to being a United States senator. So not only do you have no sort of qualifications for it, you also don't have the knowledge that is required. And she's running against somebody who, whatever you think of him, at least does. And so the real reason I suspect that the Trump administration and Republicans have rallied around her is that she just would be easy to control. She'd just vote whatever way the Trump White House tells her to. But it's that's not what they are supposed to do. That's not the point of a representative democracy, of the people being sent to represent their constituents and to kind of serve as a independent check on the other branches of government. But no, that's clearly why Trump wants her to win. You think he's just so emotional and symbolic as a person, he just wants to honor Lindsey Graham? No. He wants a senator who's not going to vote against him or annoy him or take a stance on something that's, inconvenient to him in some way based on a matter of principle or conviction or deep knowledge about an issue. He wants somebody who's just going to go along to get along. And it seems like Darline Graham, who, listen, I'm sure might be a wonderful lady, that would be her. And to me, that's yet another reason she shouldn't be a United States senator. And how are we going to be, or how are people on the right broadly going to be the ones who care about meritocracy and oppose, people being appointed for DEI or for other things that are not their qualifications, and yet this is fine, I guess? No, it's actually not. It's actually deeply hypocritical and makes our politics look like even more of a joke than it already is, which is quite a bit. Then she tried to go on Hannity on Fox News, and this is where it all gets worse, to kind of clean up, because this was a disastrous debate stage moment for her. It went mega viral. It obviously became the most clipped moment of the campaign so far, the Republican primary over there. And so she tried to go on Hannity, who's an incredibly friendly host, who's really helping to do damage control for her here. And she really didn't make it better, in fact. Listen to this.
I think you're 100% right, Sean. And, I tripped up on one question last night regarding Taiwan. But, I've said many times, I'm not a politician, certainly not a career politician. I don't speak politician. I was just honest, and I think that's kind of a foreign concept. But I talked to several people today. I traveled around the state, and they said, we appreciated the fact that you were honest. And I did say several times that, China is our enemy, our military and economic threat to the United States. Of course, Taiwan is our friend. But I think people in South Carolina are more worried about making ends meet. They're concerned about boys and girls sports. One lady talked to me extensively about that today. They're concerned about the Second Amendment. They're concerned about the Save America Act, illegal immigration. So they're concerned about a lot of other things other than Taiwan.
So I'll explain why she really didn't make it any better. In that debate answer, she repeatedly said, not just about Taiwan, which is something a United States senator should know something about and have a position on, by the way, but not just on Taiwan. She literally just over and over again said, I'm not informed on national security, period, point blank. I get that people are concerned about what's domestic issues as well. Okay, but still, voting on military budgets and policies and on the authorization of the use of force and many other things related to national security is a key part of being a senator. And you said over and over again that you don't know anything about it. So I don't really understand how bringing up biological males and women's sports gets you out of that little snafu, Mrs. Graham. Like, what's going on here? Because the other piece is, I'm pretty sure South Carolina already bans that. So that's, to my knowledge, not even an issue in South Carolina. So even more of a weird deflection. I obviously agree with her on that issue, but it's like, how is that going to do anything to address the actual issue here of you over and over again saying that you don't know anything about anything? But what really pissed me off about this to no end is Sean Hannity, the Fox News host, who clearly is supporting her, Darline Graham, for Senate. Well, he has in the past, quite rightfully, criticized the likes of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for her lack of geopolitical knowledge as a congresswoman, but now is singing a very different tune, that it's a Republican candidate for Senate that he likes that admits they don't know anything. Let's listen to Sean Hannity. First, at the beginning of this clip is when he was talking about AOC's lack of knowledge on geopolitics. Then here's him making excuses for Darline Graham. Let's watch.
Wow. Even worse than Hillary, though, Radical Squad leader AOC simply could not answer basic questions about global affairs. This is about... So this issue of Taiwan came up last night, and I know people have made a big deal about it, and I'm like, I wonder how many people around the country, if I gave them a map, could pick out Taiwan. I don't think many, and not just in, the whole country, never mind South Carolina.
So this is hilarious to me for a few reasons, because when AOC struggled to answer basic questions about geopolitics, that was embarrassing. That was a disgrace. And to be clear, he's not necessarily wrong about that. But now that Darline Graham totally faceplants on a debate stage when asked about extremely prominent and glaring issues of national security and geopolitics, it's no big deal. And how many Americans could even point to Taiwan on a map? Well, they're not United States senators, Sean. It's almost like there's some knowledge that we would expect of a member of Congress that the random person on the street, we don't expect them to have. It's just a crazy, crazy, crazy example of the rank partisan and tribal corruption of mainstream cable news, in this case, Fox News, because I would literally bet my entire net worth on the fact that if a leftist or Democratic candidate had said the same thing that Sean Hannity doesn't like on a debate stage, he would not have had her on for softball damage control, made excuses for her, said, most people don't even know what Taiwan is, it's fine. He would have mercilessly roasted her for being utterly unqualified and having embarrassed herself and suggest that she does not, in fact, belong in the United States Senate. For example, I'll give you a great example. Here in Florida, they just nominated Angie Nixon to be the Democratic Party's Senate nominee, a far-left DSA-aligned candidate. If she had been asked about Taiwan and gave the same answer, Fox News would be all over it, saying what a humiliation it is and how she should resign in disgrace from public life and do something else. And they would be correct, in fact. But it's like you have to understand that these people in these media positions are just totally corrupted at some point by partisanship. I don't know what other explanation it is, because they're not dumb. He knows that's a horrible answer and that she's just not made it better at all, but he's just a cynic. I really don't know what the explanation is, but I'm genuinely, and it takes a lot to surprise me at this point, because I just sit here every day watching us descend into the depths of hell when it comes to the total lack of integrity or honesty in media. It takes a lot to still take my breath away. But this from Sean Hannity does actually stun me a little bit, not to say my expectations were high. Anyway, guys, you'll have to let me know what you think. I do feel strongly about this. Again, no personal animus towards Darline Graham. I just don't think she belongs in the United States Senate. And it makes me want to pull my hair out to see people suddenly not caring about merit or qualifications and just going for emotion or vibes or what have you in this election and with whom they support. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do make sure you're subscribed. If you aren't yet, do hit the like button while you are at it. And do consider becoming a channel member here on YouTube. It's the best way to support my independent and nonpartisan commentary and analysis. And we'll leave it there for this one and be back with more real soon.